Hello, good evening, and welcome back. The civil unrest continues as more than 150 people are arrested as police clash with anti-lockdown protesters in London and thousands march against restrictions, while 100 Tory MPs prepare to rebel against tiers after admission that indoor socialising ban could last until Easter. Yes, of course, the new Pfizer vaccines are supposed to be coming out in December, with the frontline staff getting them first, and the idea is we can only return back to normal once you've got your vaccinations, and otherwise, if you do not wish to accept them, then you don't have to. Boris Johnson saying, we're not going to force you to take a vaccination, except you can't really go anywhere or do anything or be with anyone if you're not vaccinated. So, de facto, it's obligatory. And as you would expect, this hasn't gone down very well with people who are wanting their life back. Seeing as it what seems to cost about £6 million per death, and the estimates are that it will cost the economy about £900 million per day during these lockdowns. So you might be thinking, oh, well, yeah, we cut the foreign aid from 0.7% to 0.5%, so that frees up a few billion, doesn't it? It's like, great, so that's a week of lockdown paid for. 1 week. How many weeks are we doing it? Well, of course, we're on day 250, or 251 now. Doesn't quite make sense at all, economically, then does it? No, it doesn't. But these protests, of course, you've got the right to protest as you wish, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of association, all that good stuff. As long as it's a peaceful protest, you're not harming anybody. You are instead just trying to make yourselves known in order to go against what the law of the land is, civil disobedience, if you will. Then, of course, that's, permitted. You're not causing anybody any harm. You're not getting in the way of anyone. Fair enough. Except, no, as Priti Patel has come out and overtly stated that protesting the lockdown is illegal. You're not allowed to protest. Yes, your peaceful protest, your legitimately peaceful protest, is illegal. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, but there's a JFK quote about this, that if you're going to make that peaceful protest impossible, you're going to make violent revolution inevitable. Because that is what we're seeing here. That you try and just do your thing, go for a walk, and then you're going to get arrested or tackled to the ground, then of course you're going to defend yourself because you're not harming anybody else. And that is how things escalate. So, riot police, yeah, they're not fucking about, have arrested more than 150 anti-lockdown protesters during an angry clash in London today. Thousands marched through the capital demonstrating against government coronavirus restrictions. I'm glad they mentioned that. It's not against the CCP virus, it is against the governmental reaction. Protesters led by Piers Corbyn chanted freedom and booed police as they cracked down on the demo. A grassroots campaign group met in King's Cross Station and marched through Angel to Hyde Park. Public anger with government shutdowns continues to grow as restrictions destroy jobs and livelihoods. Costing 200,000 jobs? Isn't that the idea? How ridiculous. But it gets worse, of course, as we've had a statement out of a Chinese resident in America praising the CCP for their authoritarianism and saying that, hey, they've done very well because they were able to lock down just like North Korea. But of course, the CCP aren't as good as the North Korean government. Yeah, they're not as good apparently because they're not totalitarian enough. And yes, of course, there's now been a second wave in China which has led to little local lockdowns. But the way they do their lockdowns is different. They test. If you're positive, you're locked in. No questions asked. They will weld doors shut. And this chap was excited about that and gleeful and saying, yeah, they're doing so well, whereas Europe is going to have so many dead bodies because they're more free countries, the same as America, and they're going to suffer for it. Whereas if they learned from China and were more authoritarian, then life would be better for everybody. Really gets the noggin jogging. But what about face masks? Because they like to mention that, of course, these people protesting aren't wearing face masks. That in the photos that they use, there are at least 2 police officers not wearing face masks, which is a little bit hypocritical, seeing as, hey, that's the law. If you're interacting with people, of course, then you have to be wearing a mask covering your nose and mouth. Not that it's really very useful. And I mean that as in, it's supposed to prevent you from infecting other people, not from other people infecting you, which brings me on to a topic which I'll cover tomorrow from an NHS advert saying that our masked heroes give blood. I was like, yeah. So they need people to give blood. Understandable. But if you're giving blood, you need to wear a mask. Wearing a mask doesn't stop you from getting the virus. We all know that. It's just supposed to stop you from transmitting it to somebody else. In that instance, then, why is somebody giving blood needing to wear a mask? Because then you're concerned that they have the coof. In which case, surely you do not want their blood. Surely you'd be testing them to know if you want their blood before you receive their blood, because if they've got the coof, surely you're not going to use it, because it's so deadly apparently, in which case they don't need to be wearing a mask. But anyway, we'll get onto that tomorrow. There's a new format I'm trying, so keep you guys peeled tomorrow afternoon. But the second thing, and this is a bit more nefarious, is with regards to police officers wearing masks. That there was the old Zimbardo prison study, which you probably heard of as being an unethical psychological study, the Harvard prison experiment of recruiting people, just university students, and half being prison guards and half being prisoners. And the idea was that the prison guards wore uniforms and wore sunglasses so that the prisoners couldn't look in their captors' eyes, and it was to try and shield their identity as much as possible. Well, the same goes for being in a mob. If your identity is hidden, then you're more likely to do things in accordance with a mob, and you're less likely to be an individual. So by getting your police, of course, to wear uniforms, it means that they'll conform more, and by getting them to cover their faces, then they are definitely no longer an individual, they are just a police officer. So they're now not responsible for their own actions, essentially. That is the psychological trick behind it. It is not them, they are just a police officer. So then they can be more outlandish and brutal, and they won't get caught for it. But in other COVID news, Stratford-on-Avon MP Nadim Zahawi, has been appointed as Boris Johnson's vaccine tsar. Michael Gove told potential Tory rebels to back the government's strategy or risk hospitals being overrun. Well, they're always overrun. And this is where we'd really be hoping that there's an actual opposition. But Labour seem to just be kowtowing. So, bigger government? Well, yeah, of course we're going to go for that. And hang on. You're saying that if we ever get a bit scared, or pretend that we're scared and just tell people to be scared, we can enact sweeping regulations and legislation to then dictate what people can and can't do and which businesses are allowed? Yeah, we'll back that. Thank you very much. And we also know, Tories, that makes you very unpopular, so we'll pass those laws because we're going to get in a few years and we're going to use them to our advantage because you've passed them. Oh dear. Ex-Supreme Court Judge Lord Sumption blasted Number 10's use of selective data to justify shutdowns. Well, statistics are always selective, they can prove whatever you want. The Mail revealed that town halls are harvesting millions of personal details using COVID software. What a surprise. Wow, you're giving up your privacy to the government, and they're not respecting your privacy? What a shocker. Oh, I know. You give them information and they use it. We know. That's why Edward Snowden is in hiding. We know. Towns and villages near coronavirus hotspots could be lifted out of the toughest lockdown tiers. There's no real rhyme or reason to this. Scientists told families not to sing carols or play board games when they meet this Christmas. Yeah, of course, you've got to wear a mask, you've got to hug outside, and if you are meeting with your elderly parents, then make sure that they're in the corner with the window open, and let them freeze to death. That's the good thing to do, isn't it? The reproduction rate fell below 1 for the first time in months, while the UK recorded 15,871 new COVID-19 cases today. Who gives a shit? There's more testing, of course there are going to be more cases. And deaths from COVID, they're very misleading as well, because they're deaths with COVID, and it seems like all the other deaths have dropped. People aren't dying from anything else. That's convenient. A laboratory error meant more than 1,300 people were wrongly told they had COVID. Hang on. Laboratories make mistakes? Shocking. And yet, legislation and laws are being passed based on this fallible information. Well, never expected that. And you mean that you could get a test result which could be manipulated to then decide whether or not you want somebody to be allowed out or not to have their freedom pass? I see no way that this is going to be abused. And if the laboratories are incorrect here as well, then you've got vaccine questions as well. Brilliant. And if we've never done such a sweeping vaccination program like this before, what makes you think we're going to get it done correctly? We've seen enough problems with the mail-in ballots in the US to know that just trying to ramp these things up suddenly without any history of it isn't going to work. And hospitals have been told to prepare for the rollout of the Pfizer vaccine in as little as 10 days. Good luck, it's a government-run institution. They're going to take forever. And then we see photos of the events of people getting arrested, predominantly for breaching COVID restrictions. If they're fighting police, then of course you understand why they would be arrested. That is then for a different charge. And if they're obstructing property, then of course, then that is a different charge, of course. And it is, of course, important to use signs as well instead of just shouting things, so that when photos are here and people are reviewing them, they can see. It is funny that Father Christmas is one of the 155 being taken into custody. So yeah, sorry, Father Christmas isn't allowed out. He's not wearing a mask. Doesn't the beard count as a mask? No, don't be silly. Just any old face covering won't work. Hang on. Are you saying that the beard is too fluffy to block the COVID virus, just like a regular mask? Of course, this police officer isn't using his mask properly either. His nose is uncovered. But let's not expect any proper standards from these people. Not at all. Same thing here. And of course, the police officer in the background there just isn't bothering to wear a mask at all, which ordinarily we wouldn't be fussed with. Same thing, not covering the nose. But given that is the reason that they're stopping the rest of us, then we do expect them to follow their own bloody laws at least. Trump is our savior. Well, yeah, let's keep hoping. Let's see how Pennsylvania goes now. And the classic, I'm so angry I made a sign. Good on you. But as I say, we do not encourage violence against police. Of course we don't. Or violence against other people. Oh, there's the police officer not wearing a mask. Oh, great. We do not encourage that whatsoever. However, as I say, it seems inevitable. It seems like people aren't really given an option. So, of course, this is going to happen. And you're actually saying it is illegal for people to protest this. And at that point, you're too far gone. You really are too far gone. Because then there's no pushback. They're just saying, yep, this is the law and we're definitely right. We're not going to hear any opposing views and you can't go against it whatsoever. You're done. We're just going to silence you. We're going to censor you. Definitely no conspiracy here, though. Definitely no power play involved. This is definitely for your help. Yeah, what's the idea? Slap somebody until they thank you for it. Perfect. But, as always, there he is again. The maskless police officer. I don't encourage doxing him or anything like that, but it is fun to see. Oh, and in the background there as well, not wearing a mask. Oh dear. So, there are reasons that you don't have to wear a mask. Brilliant. And do you have to carry a card or, show things to police for this? No, you don't. Well, brilliant. Then we're all the same. It is fun to see, though, that, all the people scared of the coup for being terrified and sad and mean and unhappy, whereas people who are coming out here and actually socializing, being with each other, they're laughing and smiling and having a great time, because you get to interact with people and you're not being told what you can and can't do. Fantastic. The only unhappy people are the people being manhandled by police. Hardly a surprise. But as always, let me know what you guys think down below. That we're going to see this every weekend, aren't we? And at what point does the government say, ooh, maybe not? Or are they just watching this and going, well, hey, we can accept a certain amount if the R rate of the protests goes above 1, then maybe we need to pull back a bit, or maybe lurch forward to try and squash it out so it doesn't raise too quickly. And then if it drops down, then of course they'll try and clean up and just deal with everybody there, the last few scragglers behind, to make an example of them so that nobody tries it again in the future. Either way, let me know down below what you guys think. Always intrigued to you guys have to say. Do tune in tomorrow. We're aiming for Sunday, 1 o'clock, for our very first new live stream of the roundup of the lesser known week's news. So tune in for that. And as always, until next time, have a good one.